Okay, so start off with a couple questions. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Wendel Smith, and I was a 2010 graduate. From 2010. I think I was a science focus. I don't know if you guys call it anything different now, but yeah, I did a lot of I feel like mostly science courses when I was there at Math and Science, and so currently I'm a video editor and producer at NBC Entertainment Marketing and Digital. I've been there for about 4.5 years now, so. That's a very quick intro about me.
So, how did you get to where you are now?
So it's sort of a long story. I'll try and shorten it here, just not to bore you. So I graduated in 2014. After graduating, I moved to DC. Just moved back home. Was there for a few months, and a friend of mine who I'd met in college, well, goodness, what was it? She worked in the film equipment. So we had a program where, like, if you wanted to go and film stuff at my college, you would go and check out film equipment. So I, made friends with her because she was the one who was responsible for all that. So she had by chance thought of me just randomly because I had met her that one time, and she was like, "Hey, like, are you looking for an editing post job out in LA?" And I was in DC at the time, and I was trying to figure out post college, like, sort of what that move sort of looked like. I had interned in LA a few summers during college and knew I wanted to get out there, but I don't know, making the move out to a big city is pretty intimidating. So I found it, I was kind of waiting for the right opportunity to kind of come along. So I took a chance, went out, interviewed out there. She connected me with the post soup that was hiring, and yeah, started my first job in September of 2014 as a assistant editor. I was at a production company called Renegade 83. They do like a lot of reality TV shows. The biggest stuff that they've done is like Making It Afraid, Fit to Fat to Fin, a bunch of other like reality TV shows. So that was sort of my first break into the post world. I worked as an AE there for about 6 months. And then I sort of dipped my toes into cutting sizzles. So sizzles are used to basically sell shows in the industry. So I started cutting sizzles for them. Then after about 6 to 8 months, I got promoted as their full-time sizzle editor for the development department. So I cut sizzles there for, I think, almost 3 years. I was there for a little while. Yeah, cut shows. I mean, basically sizzles for every studio or network that you can think of. Fox, ABC, Discovery, Nat Geo, NBC, TNT. I mean, just they came up with every idea possible. So yeah, I worked there for a little bit, and then I wanted to make the transition to work in digital marketing. I kind of wanted to jump into the digital space. That was sort of back when before the digital bubble, so to speak, happened. So I blind applied to various places such as NBC, Snapchat, Fox, CBS, that sort of thing, and NBC had reached back out to me, and they wanted to work with me. So producer took a chance on me. I had networked with him, and I was I was doing freelance for them while also working my full-time job, and just because I didn't know if I wanted to make the jump, just because jumping into the freelance world can be a pretty big um, it's a pretty big jump in terms of like stability, then also planning and networking and that sort of thing. So yeah, so it started off working just like a few days here and there over a couple of months, and I asked and negotiated saying, like, you guys have to give me at least a 3 or 6 month offer. So then NBC signed me up on a contract for 6 months. I was cutting Snapchat shows for the NBC show brand. So we were cutting stuff for The Voice, for World of Dance at the time. I was editing and producing those with a senior producer, graphics artist, and another editor. So we were putting out episodes. I did that for about 6 months, then took a little bit of a break, and then they ended up bringing me back on to work behind the scenes on the World of Dance TV show. So I worked 3 seasons for that. I worked with a coworker of mine. She was a producer, so I helped co-produce with her. I also edited all the content that we shot. I also did a lot of the shooting myself, setting up interviews, that sort of thing. Did that for a few years, and then I was also doing a little bit of various producing and video editing for the marketing department at NBC, while not working on set. So I was kind of double dipping a little bit. And then once World of Dance ended, I sort of transitioned back. They sort of brought me on sort of a ongoing contract, so to speak. So yeah, that's where I am currently. Yeah, producer and video editor for their anything marketing.
So, did you go to college specifically for film, since you were a science focus?
Yeah, so that's fun. My so yeah, I've always been interested in, film and TV. I think like most people who are interested in film and TV, they have some sort of interest at a young age, and that sort of strings them along to like figuring out where that interest lies, where what they want to do with that, where their interests may go. Um, so I remember I took a document. I think it was a documentary course at Math and Science. It was with James Katowich, great professor. I'm not sure if he's still there anymore, but
You still
yeah, he was sort of the facilitator for me that kind of brought, I don't know, kind of just pushed me in the right direction, helped grow like, certain things and certain skills that I had to like, I guess, further foster my interests, I guess. So I'm very much a self-learner when it comes. I'm kind of a techie kind of guy, so love computers, love software, and just everything I know I've taught myself. So he was a great resource for sort of pushing me to sort of look outside of that, what I can use those skills for. So I'm trying to, I don't know what the course was, how it's changed over the years, but yeah, like we did documentary stuff, we also did some graphic stuff, we did like a lot of different various, looking back, there's a lot of different types of media creation. um but yeah, that was sort of my background for my
Sorry,
interest.
could you say that again?
No.
Sorry.
Wow. Yeah, the all hearing, make sure you turn off your watches and iPhones. Yeah, so that was sort of the base of me deciding whether to go to traditionally to film school or not. um my dad was a doctor, so he encouraged me to go to college, go to a college that will provide a good education, or go to a place that will foster whatever your interest might be. So at the time, Math and Science, I also thought, while dabbling in sort of making videos, I also like had a serious interest in science. I was studying chemistry, and I thought like that was going to be I remember it was during the career fair, where they have various alumni come in and talk. There was a person from Los Alamos Laboratories, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a researcher. That's what I'm going to do. So I ended up applying to a bunch of colleges. I ended up going to Vassar College up in New York. It's a prestigious liberal arts school up in Hudson Valley. Studied chemistry for, I basically studied chemistry my whole time there, while also, so I was trying to double major in film and chemistry. And ultimately it came to a point where I had to pick one, because it just was not sustainable, mentally, emotionally, to do all of that on top of all the things on the side, extracurricular, that I was doing at Vassar. So yeah, I did not, it's funny, I actually did not choose, I did not choose my school based on wanting to go to, traditionally to go to film school, but that's also because I didn't know if that's what I wanted to do. I just knew it was an interest. It was something that maybe I ultimately wanted to do, but not immediately. So I felt like Vassar was just a great environment. They have a film department. I feel like their cinema studies department is a little bit more reputable. I think that's what you hear about, not necessarily their production. I think when you think production or learning more hands-on, you think about NYU Tisch, or you think about USC Film School. But yeah, so that's sort of where I landed college-wise. So I ended up graduating from Vassar with a BA in film and then a correlate in chemistry, because I did not want to do the thesis, because I already did a thesis at Math and Science, and I was like, I don't want to do another research project. So yeah, that's sort of the college background of how I got into a quasi film school, so to speak. Yeah.
So did you pick Vassar because it offered both, or was it mainly for the science?
Uh, so I picked Vassar. I mean, it was my number one choice. I applied early decision. Um, I think I'd always known I wanted to go to a smaller. I want to go to a liberal arts school instead of at a university, just because of the because of the student to teacher or professor ratio. I wanted a more intimate learning experience. I wanted a curriculum that was a little bit more diverse, had a lot of class offerings, and allowed for, I think, a lot of growth just in general. Um, so yeah, it offered the best of both worlds, where I could take film classes. They also, I could, obviously I graduated with a film bachelor's, so you could follow that all the way down that path. But it was nice to be able to explore all other options in the academic world in terms of what I wanted to study and what I ultimately wanted to do with it.
So, would you recommend going to a school that offers uh, film, or more of a school that focuses mainly on film? So, like, film as a get into it, try it out, or film as a focus.
Yeah, I think. I mean, ultimately, I think if you're looking at wanting to go to film school, I think, yeah, it sort of depends on, I think, what you want out of it. I think you need to first determine, like, what do you need? Sorry, this is sort of like a loaded question. I feel like, just because it's something I've actually thought about, like, over the past 5 to 10 years, of like what college meant, why did I go there, what was its purpose, how does it play a role in my life currently, how is it not? And I think I think when you're looking to go to college, I mean, you're paying for further education, right? Like, you're also paying for a network and an alumni association. You're also paying for, an experience as well, because, it is a social experience. But you're also paying primarily for, an academic education. So I think for whoever's deciding to go to film school, I think you kind of have to weigh, which is, do you know 100%, is that something that you want to solely focus all of those funds into, or do you want a place where if you change your mind after a year, that, like, you still feel that, well, I can do something else? Because I think that's something that people don't really talk about very often, is that I think a lot of times, at the, I mean, I guess, yeah, your junior and senior level of high school is immediately, you're pushed to go to college, and that's the next step. And I think a lot of people don't really take the time to think about, what those next steps are. Me personally, I think if I had an opportunity to do it over again, I think I probably would have taken 6 months to a year off. I think probably just examine how I felt post high school, that experience, and then what I want to take with my interests, and where I would want to go. That would be, my best fit. I don't regret anything in life. I had a great experience at Vassar, and they provided a lot of resources, a great environment, just for just about everything. But yeah, I think, so going back a little bit to your question about, you know, going to a film school that screams film school, or going to a school that offers film courses. I mean, Vassar doesn't scream film school. They do have a full, program for film. And, for that, I guess I'm grateful that, like, I was able to do both. But the nature of going to a liberal arts school is that you have a diverse, curriculum, and they actually encourage you, and it's mandatory that you have to basically, you have to, they categorize, and this is typical in the liberal arts curriculum, is that whatever your major is, you still have to divide up the percentage of classes that you take outside of that. So film was considered in the humanities or the arts, so you had to take stuff either in the math and sciences or just in other categories, just to fulfill, for you to graduate with a bachelor's. But yeah, ultimately, I think it just depends on really just what you're looking for and what you find in value, because at the end of the day, you're the one writing a paycheck or taking a loan to go to that school. So if you want a place to grow, I think it's better to go to a place that offers everything, and you can kind of figure out what you want, or take a year off and take a little time to decide, so there's not so much pressure to decide your senior year. Or if like hardcore, that's the only thing you want to do, you live and breathe film, television, media, whatever, yeah, absolutely go to USC, NYU, Tisch, or those are obviously at the top of the line. But there's programs at every university. I feel like it probably like most states that offer film.
Was film school worth it to you? And what did you get out of it that you don't think you could have gotten elsewhere?
Um, I'd say yes and no, but I think you have to take out the qualifier film school, because I think that's kind of the dual faceted question. I think, is going to college worth it? I would say yes, absolutely. Um, would going to film school exclusively to find out if you like film is worth it? I would say probably not, and that's a little bit of a costly gamble, in my opinion. College nowadays is very expensive. It depends on if you have the funding yourself, if you're going to take loans. If you're going to liberal arts, that's going to tend to run you a lot more. If you go to a private school like, USC or Tisch, if you're not on academic funding, tuition is very expensive. So I think, you have to look at the cost part of it, which is this going to give you what you need to be able to go after you graduate to go into the industry? From an education, academic perspective, I think it's absolutely worth it. From a life experience perspective, absolutely. I think college is a great opportunity for you as an individual to grow. I think it's important. Like I said, tying that with the people that you meet, 100% worth it. I think film school is a good start if you're interested and you kind of want to see where the rabbit hole goes, so to speak. It depends on where you go to. I think various institutions sort of prioritize, everyone's going to be unique. They're going to prioritize whatever they think is important for the curriculum and what they want to teach to their students. So that's, I feel like it's kind of, so you kind of have two. So I feel like traditionally you probably have two choices. So you're either doing cinema studies or you're doing production. If you go to a school that has a lot more resources poured, into their film department, you're going to have a lot more than that. I mean, you can get as specific as, going to school for visual effects, going for, motion graphics and design, going into the business of the industry. If you want to, work on management or work on the studio side. Yeah, it kind of just depends on what you think that you're interested in. But, with that note, I've met plenty of people. I've worked with lots of people as well that did not go to college for film. I've met lots of people who were lawyers or doctors who decided at the age of, 35, 40, 50, whatever, they decided they want to come into entertainment, and that's their background. That's sort of the great thing about our industry is that, like, I think it's kind of anyone can jump in. Yes, you do need to be able to work hard. You do need to be able to have the skills, unique vision, etc. But that's what I love about it, is that the type of people that you meet have all sort of backgrounds and they're kind of from everywhere. So tying it back to your question, was it worth it? I don't know. I think it's up to you. I think my background going to Vassar gave me it gave me an intellectual advantage. I think it allowed me to start conversations that I may not have been able to otherwise. I think going for the alumni network, for the people that you meet, that's a primary reason why you're also going as well. I think especially going into media and entertainment, like that's just the nature of it, is that you need to have a network, and you need to, because chances are you're going to be employing your friends or vice versa, or you're going to be working with each other. So if you kind of just move out to LA having not, went to any college in general, I think you would have a little bit of you'd have a little bit of a harder start. So yeah, I think you kind of just, it's a lot of personal introspection that, you have to weigh, is that, is educating yourself in cinema studies, is that going to really help you get that editor job? I would say no, personally, but I would say that I think it gives you, like I said, being able to, most people who work in TV and film love it. And, if you're able to talk about that, engage with people, can open doors that you may not have been able to otherwise. And sorry, was there a second part of your question?
Did you get anything out of film school that you don't think you could have gotten elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, depending on the academic institution you go to, I think, you're probably going to have top tier professors. If you're going to a, highly rated liberal arts school or a highly rated, private university, excuse me. a lot of those people, I think that's the other thing that you would want to look into as well, is if you're looking at a college that you're interested in, you're, looking at their film program, look at the professors who work there and look at if they have a media background. I obviously won't get into specifics, but I've had professors who were not connected to the industry and they were there strictly for, for an academic um, purpose, which is great. Like I said, that was great, but that I felt like I didn't get as much out of that from, say, for example, some that had produced their own documentaries or who had actually worked as an editor or producer, director, whatever. And they were able to give me insight into, what it was like to graduate and what, how to sort of get into the industry or sort of any of that sort of advice. That's what I would say, if you're looking at going to a trade school, for example, like, I think for film, it's useful if you really do, if you want to go for a very technical aspect, it might be worth it just for the education and that, if you want to be a DP, if you want to be an editor and you just want to learn the ins and out of Avid, Premiere, DaVinci, whatever, that could be beneficial. But like I said, that's a skill school. So, you might have a harder time, breaking into the industry or networking with people just because it's just such a different setup. And I would say, I think also film school, or what was unique that you couldn't get elsewhere, was, as cheesy as it sounds, like you sort of learn how to make movies if you take a production course. I think you learn a lot of fundamentals, and you actually, if you have an interest in film, chances are you probably already know some of it. So it's not a like complete puzzle. But looking back, I mean, what I knew at 18 is 360, in terms of what I know now and sort of what goes into actually making it. Or at least what I thought I remember, like as a 17, 18-year-old, is completely different than when I came out of college. And then even a couple years into the industry. And then the last part is, I think, just like how to analyze film and television and just media in general in a academic environment. Like, I think I'm I mean, unless you're into that thing, I don't think people are really going around having, academic conversations in Los Angeles about, like I said, unless you're going to be a professor or if you're going to go into being a critic. Yeah, I feel like it's useful. It's a, good conversation starter, but, you being able to talk about film or what you learned in film class is not going to land you that job at, CBS as an assistant, in my opinion.
Are the resources a school has more important than how they teach?
Uh, I'd say absolutely not. uh, like, money is an interesting thing. I would say, like, from I'm not going to downplay someone's education from, whether they went and studied film at University of Arkansas or if they went and studied film at USC Film School. Sure, I think probably the breadth and depth is probably going to be different. I think probably the offerings are going to be different. But again, back to what I was saying earlier, is I think ultimately it comes down to what you're looking for. Yes, compare like Harvard versus Hendrix. Yeah, there's going to be quite a large difference in terms of reputation, in terms of the staff, in terms of the resources they provide. But like, I think it's an unfair thing to compare because I think they sort of just stand on different scales. Again, if you're looking for an education, I mean, yes, of course there's bad schools out there, but like, if a school is highly rated, like I really don't think you can go wrong. Naturally, if you're able to put more money into a department, you're going to see more offerings and more things. I mean, I think USC and NYU Tisch being the prime example. I mean, the fact that you can go and study, I believe USC now has a digital marketing course and like just how to do digital media. I mean, that just speaks to just how much money is being dumped into that program. So like, you can get that granular in terms of going to school for that, if that's something that that you want. Ultimately, you're the one paying for it, so I would say make it worth it, right? I think an endowment is always helpful to just make more programs and experiences available to the students. The other thing I would say is also look at like the extracurriculars and look at the various like film slash, I mean, not really TV, but video clubs, so to speak, that are like offered. Like what sort of groups can you be a part of at the college that will sort of like help propel you and give you like something and some sort of experience going into the industry. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it's, you can look at ASMSA versus public schools in Arkansas as a prime example of that. And I think you could probably make the decision yourself, and you see that, whenever you invest and specialize funding in a very specific mission, that I think that sort of reflects in the value that you get out of it.
Should you consider location when choosing a school like California, Georgia, and Texas, since film is really centered around those areas right now?
In general, I'd say no. It helps. I think it helps if you go to a school where there is industry present. Yeah, when I was applying in Valley, and like it was almost impossible to find anything because just media production was pretty small. Anyway, there was a professor of graphic design at Math and Science who brought me to a commercial post house in Little Rock, Arkansas. And that was just like, I was just like, at the time, I was just like, wow, that's like, it was crazy. It was a great experience, and like seeing what the local industry was like. But like I said, that was like one of the very in Central Arkansas. So I think it's to your advantage. When I was at Vassar, I interned as a PA on an indie film down, just in various parts of the New York City metropolitan area. When I was interning in Los Angeles, I worked at Jared Leto's Vassar. It's yeah, like I said, I think it is proximal. Like if I wouldn't let that be the sole decision based on where you go to school, but I think it's an important factor to look at. But also look into the CDC office for whatever college you decide to go to, and look at opportunities as well. Los Angeles is sort of the hub, I think, in terms of like everything TV, film, entertainment, and media, just in general. I think it's followed pretty closely by NYU. Yeah, there is production in Atlanta, there is production in Austin, and some parts of other parts of Texas, but you have to remember that those jobs are coming from works that are coming from Los Angeles mostly. So it's something to think about as well, that like, I don't know, I have friends that are in all those states and all those places, and it's definitely a different I don't know, the job market is just different. So yeah, I don't think, I wouldn't let that factor too heavily into your decision, but it's something good to be aware of.
What area of film do you think is easiest to break into?
Yeah, so I thought about this one for a little bit. I think I think when you think about working in film and television, the first thing that you immediately think of is being an assistant. And I think our industry has changed rapidly to make it a more fair environment to work in, more rights for workers, better pay. But I think being an assistant, whether that's at an agency, at a studio, or a production company, that's probably the easiest break. It's the lowest level. It can be competitive depending on where you're going, whether you're going to William Morris or if you're going to, a small private agency. Studio, it's like if you're looking at NBC or CBS, or if you're looking on the smaller end, looking at, cable, like or not TNT, I guess, like, I don't know, like Sci-Fi, for example, or production companies, whether you're looking at reality TV, or if you're looking at a really big one. I think post production is a good space to break into as well. I think post production is just the easiest. I think it's just a little bit easier to. I think the ladder is a little easier in terms of climbing, just because it's a little more technical. And it doesn't necessarily require you to be union, and it's also not on set as well. I think it's a little bit higher paying initially, so it's a little easier to subsidize if you're moving to Los Angeles, New York, kind of Atlanta, I guess. But like, again, it's like most people who are editing are in LA or New York. But I think also you don't want to forget about the TV and streaming companies as well, or digital media. Digital media is a good easy part to break into. I feel like reality TV has a reputation. I mean, that's how I got into the industry, and then that's how I made my move to broadcast. So yeah, I think every ladder is different, and I don't think. I mean, if you're asking yourself what is the easiest part to break into, I think you probably need to re-examine why you want to work in the industry, because I would say if you want to work in film and entertainment, you have to want to love it. You don't want to just do it just because you want to do it for a job. Because I would say there's probably a lot more fun jobs out there in the world, given based on what you would have to deal with working in, the industry. Um, but yeah, I think, but again, I'm an editor, so I'm biased. So my network is primarily in editorial and post. So for me, it felt easy, but that's also because I connect people in those, in that area. So.
Did you make any connections in school that helped you later in life?
Yeah, I mean, my first job was, someone I met who was loaning out my film equipment for me to go film stuff on my campus. So, um, I landed an internship at Lisa Kudrow's production company because she was tied to Vassar and I was an intern in their development department, over a summer. I think there's still like some people there's still some people I'm still in touch with that I met as PAs years ago. Um, and in school, I feel like, I'm still friends with, obviously a lot of like, my film friends, but also people who are not in film. And I've also landed various jobs or freelance work from a friend of a friend that I knew from Vassar. So people definitely underscore the importance of networking. It's definitely important. I hate it, but it's necessary. But that's just the nature of the industry. Everyone has to work together to produce whatever you're trying to make. There's not, if you don't have one, it's not going to, well, it might make itself, but it might be pretty bad. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, don't just look at a college just based on like what will they offer me, but I think it's important, if you go to a small no-name school, it might be a little harder if you're trying to, go to Los Angeles or New York and find that, first foot in the door, so to speak. Um, Definitely keep in touch, maintain relationships. That's important. I think that's something that's not, you know, stressed enough. I mean, looking back at college, when you just like walk by the other person, pretend you don't exist. I don't know. I just think it's really important to maintain friendships and relationships with people.
Do you think money spent on college would be better spent on film equipment or trying to break into the film industry by doing like a short film or something?
Definitely a controversial question because I feel like I've been a little not anti-college, but trying to make you think about your decision. I don't know. I think I had a job in college, so I was making money on the side while studying. So I used that money to put that towards, various, I went, it's funny, I went into college with a DV cam and then came out with a DSLR just because that's where technology had changed at the time. But I don't know, we live in like different times now. I mean, you see like, like these, the iPhone 13, like you can just like, you can make movies on them. Well, movies on them. That's highly debatable. But my point being that, like, I think the content that you're going to be making when you're in college or, when you're just starting out, I don't think my philosophy has always been that, like, if you're a good DP, it doesn't matter what you film it on. Because if you have that perspective in that eye, it's just a device. As I had mentioned earlier, I'm very techie. I like to be on the cutting edge of things. I'm always looking at like what is the best thing out there. And but with that said, I don't know if I would throw, if you were saving $50,000 for college or more or whatever. I don't know if I don't know. It's a gamble, honestly. I mean, if you have that much confidence and believe that whatever short film you would be making is something to jumpstart your career, by all means, absolutely do it. Um, but I guess what I'll say is that just because I made a short film towards the end of college, believed in it, etc. Still love it. Like poured like everything into it, but that wasn't the thing that helped boost my career or what I was interested in. I don't know, but also being a director, that's a completely different path. And if you're a director, then that you sort of rely on making shorts and being able to direct as much as you can to bolster what you're making. um Also, I don't know if I like going on the record if you should spend your college money on film equipment, but I would generally say no, just because I think that's a ballsy move. But again, just to say that just because of the the world that we live in today with tech, I really do believe that, like, I mean, I was editing on a very old version of Adobe Creative, or it's not, what was it, Adobe Suite or whatever it was called back in the day, and like I just had that for years because, like, I don't know, I think you don't need the latest cutting edge stuff to make whatever you want to make and whatever that is, especially when you're first starting off. Um, so, but like I said, I think that ultimately comes, you kind of have to weigh that decision, which is going to college to learn, to grow, and to experience something different. Is that worth more or less than putting money into well, RELX is probably just as much as a college education, but whatever camera you're looking at, like, I don't know, you kind of just have to weigh those things, because also making a short film and a movie is like really expensive. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think ultimately it depends on like what your career path is, and I think going back to what I said earlier is that, like, I think if you really are kind of torn, I really think, putting things on pause and waiting 6 months or a year to go to college to make that decision, I think is a very wise decision. I think, unfortunately, it's just the nature of how the education industry works in this country, is that I think you're pushed pretty quickly to go into college, and you don't have time to sit and actually think about like what you want and how that's going to help propel you to a career that you want to grow into.
If someone on the edge, would you rather focus on academics or film?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Vassar thinking I was going to be a researcher. I thought I was going to go work in a laboratory up in the mountains. And here I am working in a closet at NBC cutting, videos. So I think I'll just say, because I remember it was my junior year, I was on the phone with my dad and was having a mental breakdown because I didn't know what I wanted to do, because it felt like it was a consequential point in my academic career at the time. It was an important time. I had to decide, am I going film all the way, or am I going to be, going to chemistry? And if you know what you want now as a senior, by all means, go for it. Like, I think you should be confident in what you do, because that's what you know that you want to do. If you're on the fence, play it safe. There are plenty of, good middle and high tier colleges and universities that offer great programs, but also offer plenty of alternatives. I mean, it happens all the time. And I think I think administrators don't, give the okay that it's okay to change your mind. I thought I wanted to be a film director. And then after working on set as a PA on various films and then working behind the scenes, I was just like, oh my God, no, like, no way. Post was definitely the world I wanted to go into. So, yeah, like I said, if you know, go for it. If you don't know, go to a place that's, a little bit more of a safer bet. But again, that goes back to what I was saying, is that film school is not going to land you that job that you're looking for in LA or New York. When I'm hiring people, I don't even look where they went. Well, I'm nosy, so I like to know where they went to school, but like, that's not the reason why I hire someone. I hire someone based on what is their skill set, what do they offer, what do they bring to the table, are they a hard worker, are they reliable? Those are the important things. So, I would just look at it with sort of that job and postgraduate perspective when you look at, deciding whether you want to go to film school or not. I don't know how much sway I have, but if it makes you feel better, film school is not like, if you don't go to film school, you're not just going to miss out, and you're going to be shunned from the industry. Again, I've worked with plenty of people who didn't go to film school, just went, studied whatever they wanted to. There's actually a lot of psychology majors in the film industry, I've noticed, but yeah, that'd be my answer to that. That's not to rain on someone's parade of wanting to go to film school. If that's what like they want to do, like, by all means, go for it. But honestly, I would say, I mean, look at a lot of famous TV film directors, producers, editors, whatever. Not a lot of not a lot of them went to, traditional film school, so to speak. Film school, I feel like, is a recent educational phenomenon.
I think the only school scarier than Tisch so far has been Chapman, which requires like 5 separate films. And that one is in, I think so.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny. People don't really talk about Chapman, but Chapman actually has a good, they have a good program. They're rivals kind of with USC and their film program. But in my opinion, those are very, very, very different. I went to I took a visual effects course at USC, and it was incredible. My instructor was he was the animator for the magic carpet in Aladdin. So like his sort of perspective and like telling us about the industry. And that was back when I thought I was going to go into visual effects, and I was just like, no, this is not profitable, and I would not have a life. So